Hey y'all, welcome back to A Dinosaur in the Library. This is Vlogmas, day 9. Thank you for coming back yet again to listen to me ramble. So today I'm going to be doing a book review, and that will be on Val Brelinski's The Girl Who Slept with God. And this is two things. First, this is an ARC, so I'm not really sure what the finished version of this cover looks like. And second, this is not mine. So yeah, I borrowed this. Why that matters to you, I don't know, but I borrowed this from my friend Jen. We swapped books. She borrowed my copy of Library of Souls, and she let me borrow this, which she picked up at ALA Annual last year. And she actually, I'm not sure if she met Val Brelinski or if she just happened to get a signed copy, but in any case, she was kind enough to let me borrow this. It sounded super interesting when I found it on Goodreads a while back, so I was very excited to get to read this. Just go ahead and tell you a little bit about this book. I will not be giving any spoilers out, so if you have not read this and you want to, feel free to watch this video till the end. I will not be doing any spoilers. So this is kind of a chunky book, so I'm going to set it down. Although I do like the cover quite a bit, with the stars and the butterfly. Very pretty. Okay, so A Girl Who Slept with God by Val Brelinski follows a family, the Quanbecks, who live in, I think, Idaho in the 1970s. And there are 3 daughters, Grace, Jory, and Frances, and that's from oldest to youngest, and then the father and the mother. And the father is an astronomer, and he teaches at a local college, but it's a local Christian college because the family is very strictly evangelical Christian. Some people on Goodreads kind of likened them to the Duggars, but they're not nearly as tweaked as the Duggars are. So there's that. But they are a very, very religious family, and their life pretty much revolves around the church. The kids go to religious school, and it's just, that's their whole world. Well, the oldest daughter, Grace, is extremely pious, extremely religious, and her dream has always been to be a missionary. And so when she's 16, almost 17, she gets the chance to go with her church to Mexico on a missionary trip to help build churches and things like this. And so she goes to Mexico, and the other 2 daughters stay home. The book is told in third person, but it's mainly told third person through Jory. Or not through Jory, but third person with Jory's point of view. So it's not omniscient. You don't know what's going on in Mexico or on the other side of town or in their father's head or anything like that. You mainly get Jory's idea of what's going on. And she's 13, I think, 13, 14 during this book. And so she's not really sure of everything that's going on, and she doesn't get told everything. And so while Grace is in Mexico, Jory thinks that she's sick because her parents freak out and they say she's going to have to come home, and her father's doing all this research on diphtheria and these weird diseases and things. But it turns out that Grace is actually pregnant. And again, this is not a spoiler. It's on the book description. And when Grace comes back, she claims that it is a child of God, that she, hence the name of the book, that she is carrying God's baby, as Mary was said to do in the Bible. And of course, no one really believes her, and her father is bent on determining, you know, who did this and going to Mexico and trying to hunt them down and things like this. Well, then their entire family and world starts falling apart because being an extremely religious family, they obviously don't want the town or the school or the church to know that Grace is pregnant. So what the father does is he purchases a house out on the edges of town, and by the edges of town, I mean way out on the edges of town, like the opposite end of town, completely out in the boondocks. He buys this house that's sitting next to this other house where this older woman lives, who's really nice. And he sends Grace and Jory to live out there by themselves. And again, no spoilers, because this is the very first thing you find out, is that he has sent them out there. He drops them off with some groceries, says he'll be back to check on them. Essentially to keep Grace from telling people that she's pregnant, A, and B, pregnant with God's child. So the story starts unraveling from there, right? Jory makes friends with the ice cream man, whose name is Grip, and he plays a big part in the story. You get him throughout the book. Their little sister Frances is in and out of the story because obviously if they're living out on the edge of town, Frances is not living there, so you don't get a whole lot with her. The older woman, Hilda, who lives next door and who, from whom the father bought the house, she plays a big part in the story, and Jory has to change schools and all this kind of thing. And so you get this it's really a story about their family. It's not so much a story about a girl thinking that she's pregnant with God's child, although that would have been an awesome book. It's not really a story about their mother, who is obviously mentally unstable. It's not a book about her father. It's about their family dynamic and what happens when something immensely strange and outside of their typical expectations of what the world should be happens. So I will not give any spoilers. I will not tell you about the ending, but I will tell you this. This book is one of the best books I have read in years. And to qualify that, I'll talk just a minute about book reviewing. So for those of you who read across the age spectrum, meaning you read everything from picture books all the way to adult nonfiction, and everything in between, you know that when you give a picture book 5 stars, it's not really the same as when you give an adult nonfiction or an adult fiction book 5 stars. They're both equally awesome, but for much different reasons. So if I gave a 5-star rating to a YA book, like I did with, I think with Cinder, I did, that's a much different set of criteria for me than giving a 5-star to an adult fiction novel, even if they may be similar. So this is a YA book, and I gave it 5 stars, but this is a 5-star period. This is not a YA 5-star. This is not a, it's a 5-star, but it's not an adult. No, this book is hands down, period, across the board, one of the best books I've read in years. And it sounded really interesting when I first heard of it, but I had no idea how much I was going to love it. To the point that I'm probably going to go out and buy a copy of this when it hits paperback, just so that I can have my own copy to reread later on down the line. I really loved this book. The character development was amazing. You got, even though it's third person, you get a really good sense of what Jory is like. You get her inner thoughts. You get how she pictures the world around her. You get her feelings about her sister. And even though it's third person really through Jory, you really get Grace's personality in snippets. You even get Frances. You pick things up and you start experiencing Jory's life in her family very vividly. The way it's described and the way things are presented, and even the characters who are just barely there are very vividly drawn. And it's a very character-driven story. Obviously, there's a plot happening, but it's not a plot that relies on a lot of action. So the book is mainly character-driven, and I, as I said, just loved it. So if you love that kind of thing and you are looking for an awesome book to read, this would certainly fit the bill. So I definitely think you guys should go and check this book out. Trust me, you will not be sorry that you did. And I thank my friend Jen, not Jen Campbell, my friend Jen for letting me borrow this, because it's super amazing. And I cannot wait for her to get it back and read it, because I didn't even know that she hadn't read it when she let me borrow it till the other day. So I'm really excited for her to read it and see what she thinks about it. And if any of you have read this, please let me know in the comments down below, because I haven't really heard much about it at all anywhere on BookTube. I think I might have heard it one time on a channel, and I can't remember whose that is. But I would really love to know what everybody else thought of this. It's just amazing, and I don't know why it's flying so far under the radar. Or maybe I'm just missing where it's being, you know, touted and praised. But it seems like it's flying pretty far under the radar, and it definitely shouldn't be. So that is my review of Val Brelinski's The Girl Who Slept with God. I think I have gone on quite long enough about this, and I hope you guys will come back tomorrow for Vlogmas Day 10. Bye!